Come to standing on your mat. Lift your toes, spread them wide and plant them. Start with the pinky toes, work your way in. Feel the ground underneath your feet. Feel how it supports your legs and then your knees, your hips. You can feel them even over your feet. Your shoulders are even over your hips. Hips aren't forward, hips aren't back. Everything is nice and even. That allows you to have the natural bends in your back. If your hips are held forward, then your upper back has to round to compensate. This is a very common way of standing. The stomach juts forward, the hips move forward, and it becomes very second nature. We want to try to counteract that by consciously, at least once in a while, standing completely straight and feeling then how the weight is borne on the bones and on the joints and how comfortable that can be. I apologize for all the surrounding noise. I'm hoping that because the microphone is pointed towards me and it's a relatively directional one, you're not hearing all the crash, bang, and cars and all the other stuff that I'm hearing, including like, not mopeds, but motocross and everything. Separate your feet to a little bit more than hip width. Interlace your fingers. Push them away from you in front. Shoulders are nice and broad. Lift your arms now overhead. And lean your way down to the left. Inhale back up. And the pause afforded to us by the truck that just stopped dumping a load of gravel, and lean your way to the right. Try to keep both arms straight. Come back up. Now lean forward. Bring your body parallel with the ground, but look over your pinky fingers so your head and your chest are lifted. Lean forward. Use your butt muscles, your hamstrings to lift yourself back up. We're going to do it again to the left. Vertical to the right. Vertical. Lean forward. Look over your hands. Inhale, come up. Release your arms. Give your shoulders a roll. Rolling back. Rolling forward. And just a little bit of a shake and a wiggle. The right arm snakes in behind. Pull it around to the side. Grab the hand with the left and hold it there at the side while you stand tall. Pull your right shoulder blade down and to the back. Go closer to your spine. For a little bit more, you can look up and lift your collarbones. And release. The right arm slide out. Left arm snakes behind. Hold on to the hand. Pull it around to the side. And again, for a little bit more, lift your chin, lift your collarbones up. Keep your lips closed and your jaw can open. And release. Oh, they're busy next door. Interlace your hands behind you. Stretch your arms long. Keep your legs as straight as you can. Bend forwards. Lift your hands away from your hips. Try not to round your back. Inhale back up to standing. Release. Shake it out. We're going to come to triangle on the left side. So the left foot comes forward, the right foot comes back. Turn to the side, raise your arms parallel with the floor, extend out through your fingertips, release your shoulders while you do that. Bend your front knee, tilt, turn, and then straighten the left knee. Inhale to come up. Release your arms, step to the front. Left foot back. Inhale, raise your arms, and then exhale, fold over the right leg. Try always to aim for form. Don't worry about how deep you get. That will come with time, but form should come immediately. Inhale, come back up. Step to the front. We'll try a rotated triangle. Feet are hip width apart, and they stay there even though you draw the right foot back. Your legs are slightly bent until we're into it, and then you want to straighten both legs. Right arm snakes in behind, grabs the left elbow. Left arm then bends, and you grab the right elbow. If you can't get to the elbows, then you grab your forearms. If you can grab your elbows, you might go a little bit farther and do the reverse palm prayer pose on your back. I cannot do that. Not sure if I'll get there in this lifetime or not, but I'm back to grabbing my elbows, so something is progressing. And then keep the chest open as you bend forwards. Keep that left knee, safe by keeping it bent until you're down, and then straighten it. Pull the left hip back as you straighten the left leg. Remember, you have to use your core here to protect your back. Once you're down as far as you can go, your hamstring is saying that's enough. You now round your back and bring your nose towards your knee. Bend both your knees, inhale, come up. Now just realize that that's not the rotated triangle. We'll be doing that next then. Step forward with the right. Release the arms. They're dumping gravel over there. What a racket. Step back with the left. Left arm snakes behind. Grabs the right elbow. By moving that right arm, you can pull that left arm over as far as it goes. Bend the right elbow, grab the left. Small bend in your knees as you fold over. Then straighten the right leg and bring the right hip back. Keep the chest open for now, collarbones proud and lifted. And then when the hamstring says that's enough, round your back and bring your nose to your knee. Soften both your knees. Inhale, come to standing. Release the arms. Come to the front. Shake it out. Now we'll do the rotated triangle. The reason why I was confused is because it starts the exact same way with the same instructions. Feet are hip width apart. Even when you draw the right leg back, they say hip width apart. Left hand stays on your left hip. Right hand comes up and over. Exhale as you lean forward, bending that left knee slightly. And the right hand is going to come down to the shin. Going to come down to the floor on the inside or the floor on the outside of your leg. Rotate, pull the left hip back. Left arm can then go up towards the ceiling. You keep rotating. And release gently. Come back up to standing. So that's a bit of a balance pose as well. You may have noticed as you tried it. Switch sides, left foot back. Right foot's pointing straight off the mat. Right hand on hip. Hopefully that's it for the dirt bikes. He sounds like he's driving away. Left arm overhead, right hip comes back as you lean forward. Keep that right knee bent, gently bent, and then drop the hand on the shin, inside or outside the foot. Release, look down. Inhale, come back to standing. Triangles are very good poses. They really teach you to open up and to stretch your legs, your upper body, your waist, your hips. I've never known it to be this loud before. My goodness. Okay, extended side triangle. Step back with the right foot. Bend the left knee. You want to bring the bottom of your thigh, if you can, parallel with the ground. Roll the right leg open so that you can plant the outer edge of the right foot on the floor. Bring the left arm across the thigh, turn to the side. Right arm comes overhead. If you're finding this easy, you can bring your left hand down towards the floor. Pushing against your knee, everything stays stable. You turn again, right arm overhead. Then exhale, release. Inhale, straighten that left leg, and then little big step, come to the front. Shake it out. Now that big step is still under control. I'm not just sort of throwing myself forward hoping that I'm going to get there. If it's too far, take a couple of steps, obviously. Step back with the left, bend the right knee, arm comes across, turn to the side, left arm overhead. And again, if that's working out for you, you can bring the right hand down to the ground. Stay rotating open. It's a little bit harder. You'll probably be leaning a little bit more down towards the floor. More difficult position to rotate in. Left arm, though, stays overhead if it can. And release. Inhale up to standing. Step with control to the front. Shake it out. We're going to do a forward bend. Hands on hips. Set your feet hip width or slightly wider apart. Keep the upper part of the chest open. The chin lifted slightly as we lean forwards. Like we did at the beginning, only our hands are not overhead. Our hamstrings are a little bit looser, so maybe you'll come down a little bit farther. Release your hands from your hips and then put them where they come, on your shins, maybe down to your ankles or wherever. We're going to hold this pose for 2 minutes. So think that you have to be listening to your body and adjusting. If there's pain, you've got to reduce. If the stretch is no longer apparent, you have to increase. Chances are good you should never stay in one position for 2 minutes. You should always be adjusting. Try to keep your legs straight without locking them. The thigh muscles are strong, your kneecaps are lifting. Slowly release the stretch. Bend your knees quite a bit. Round your back and roll up gently. That was hopefully an intense stretch for your hamstrings. And so whenever you do that, you want to come out with care to make sure that your back stays safe. And you have to use your core or round your back and just come out relaxed. So now we're going to come down to the floor or the ground, depending on where you are. Then inhale, spin your arms up. Exhale, fold. This should be easy by now. Inhale, halfway up. So your torso is parallel with the floor. Your legs are straight, hands are on your shins. Bend your knees. Now bring your hands to the ground. Step back to a high plank. If you can't sink down to a low plank, try just to stay in high plank while we sink down to a low plank. And then from low plank, push forward and up to upward facing dog. From high plank, just hold on to your core as you let your hips drop. Roll your shoulders open. Now engage your core again so you can lift your hips. Push your way to downward facing dog. So you're going back over your heels, spread your fingers wide. Don't worry if your heels don't come to the floor, it's not really important. More important is that your shoulders and hips move back. Bend your knees if you need to. And then come down to the ground. First one knee, then the other. Cross your ankles, roll over them and come to seated. Move to the front so I'm closer to the microphone. And we'll do a stretch for the hips. The Baddha Konasana, bound angle pose or cobbler's pose or butterfly pose, whatever you want to call it. Soles of your feet together. If your knees can stay with relative proximity to the ground, bring your hips forward. If not, leave your hips further back. Hold on to your feet. Sit up straight. It's a good time to practice actually sitting nice and straight. And then just release the inside of your hips so that your knees have a chance to come to the floor. If you want to do something active, actively extend out through your knees to the walls beside. That releases your hips and engages the right muscles for pulling your knees down towards the floor. There's nothing wrong with like lifting one knee so that the other one can come closer to the ground. Going back and forth a little bit. Slowly release. You can round your back here, hands underneath your knees, pick them up, extend your legs and roll them about. Just going to move this stuff out of the way. Wide angle pose. Bring your legs out as far as they can go. And if straight is uncomfortable, when you start leaning forward, bend them slightly. You would like at least your shoulders to be past your hips, or else gravity's not going to do much here. I'm sitting on a little bit of a hollow, which is not helping much. And then engage your core, so your thighs and your stomach, that's what pulls you forward. It might also help a bit to tip your toes in. That changes the architecture of your hips, allows you to perhaps come further forward, and then you roll the toes so they're pointing up towards the ceiling again. Just lean forward, actively holding yourself here with the core. At least in my personal experience, this is a pose in which progress is very slow. There are some people who just by their nature can grab their feet and put their face on the floor. There are some who are still, after several years, sitting straight up with their hands behind them because they're being pushed back by the combination of tight hips and tight hamstrings. Remember, in yoga, as in so much in life, it's not the goal that's really important. It's what you're doing to get there. And people also say that yoga, I'm not flexible enough for yoga. Well, that's just a bunch of baloney. If you were completely flexible, the yoga part would be so boring you wouldn't get to the other part, the deeper part where you're connecting with your body. If you could flop down on the floor and fall asleep, this would be totally uninteresting for you. It's the work that you're doing that's the interesting part. Now let's release. Sit up, lean back, pull your legs in, bend your knees, put them on the edges of your mat, and let's do some windshield wipers. Knees all the way down if that works for your hips. Lift them back up. These are very slow windshield wipers. Rarely in yoga do you do things quickly. Cross your ankles. Let's come to our stomachs. Do a Sphinx pose first. We've already done one upward facing dog, so Sphinx should be feeling relatively good. Breathe into your belly. Roll your shoulders back. Lots of space for your ears. You may have noticed I've got some extra space around my ears today. I was trimming my beard and I looked at the trimmer and I said, oh, why not? Ran a strip down the middle of my head, and at that point I was committed. I made a nice little pile of gray hair in front of me. It's a lot more comfortable, a lot cooler, I'll tell you. Of course, now the weather has changed, so it's kind of bad timing. Replace your elbows with your hands. Roll your shoulders back. Lift them, lift your collarbones, and then lift your head. Remember, your belly, from your belly button down, wants to stay in contact with the ground. So you're stretching your ribs forward and up. Big bend for the middle back. Release, roll down. Let's make a pillow for our hand, or for our head with our hands, and roll your hips side to side. And now a stretch for the front of the leg. Left arm crosses the body on the mat. Roll to your side so you can grab your right ankle. Roll back onto your belly. Bring your right knee right beside the left. That might be enough of a stretch. Lift your shoulders a little bit higher for more of a stretch if you like. Or hold on to your foot with the toes and the heel of the hand, and then gently pull the foot down towards the floor. Release without snapping the heel free. If you want, you can roll your hips back and forth, release your lower back a little bit. Right arm crosses in front of you, roll onto your side, grab your left ankle, plant the knee next to the right, wipe the mosquito off your forehead. Come up high in the pose to get more of a stretch coming down the front of the thigh. And then again, if you want a little bit more, adjust your foot, your hand. Oh, I got a mosquito behind my arm, I can't get rid of it right now. And pull the foot down. I'm going to release so I can get rid of the mosquito. It's tanking up on my blood. Good. And then you can also release. Bring your head back down on your hands, roll your hips side to side. And then come to lying on your backs. Bring your feet up into the air. Your legs don't need to be completely straight, but you want them as vertical as possible. And lie back and relax. Look up at the ceiling or the sky. Your thighs are engaged, your core is engaged. If that's all a little bit too much, feel free to reach up, grab your legs, and then lie back down again. The goal here is to have the feet well over the heart so that you can relieve some of the stress in the varicose veins and give the valves that are in your veins a little bit of a break. Bend our knees, squeeze them in. Do it once more for a little bit of time. I'm going to hold my knees right now. I'm feeling the core, the plank challenge. If you like, whenever we do this, you can always reach up, grab your toes, and open your legs. Double whammy here, you get a stretch. And you get a little bit of blood drain out of your leg veins. Release whatever you're in, squeeze your knees in. And you roll down to corpse pose. I'm going to stay seated so that I can watch the clock. Bring some feeling back to your fingers and toes. Roll your wrists, roll your ankles. Stretch your arms overhead. Roll over to your right side. And I'm afraid I can't leave you here much longer because at 6 o'clock I have to be on another Zoom call. So come work your way to seated. Inhale deeply, extend through the crown of your head. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me. Hopefully I'll see you again virtually tomorrow. Good night.